please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
The DFS pullback from the affairs of public sector banks, that is something you've hinted at, but I want to ask you more specifically, is that something that one should seriously
I think government
about?
has made its intent very clear in this. See, in constituting the Banks Board Bureau, government has driven the thin edge of the wedge in, which is in the PJ Naik committee report that you read, the BBB is a first step to creating a holding company to which the government will transfer its stakes, and the holding company will be a professionally run holding company. It will run the banks. So government, in principle, has taken a decision to distance itself. Now the issue is how long it will take. And that's
it's been over 2 years, sir, since this institution BBB came into being, and you have recently also talked about that there was a sense of frustration, I would imagine, that many of the recommendations you made were not accepted.
No, the frustration it's not the frustration. You see, what happens is recommendations can work in an ideal kind of a situation, not when you have the kind of problems which are coming up out of the NPA system every other day. Banks had to go through the demonetization. Banks had to go through the GST, where they had to align themselves to the GST setup. And now every other day we have a problem in terms of the non-performing assets. It's the systems can work, the recommendations can work only after the cleanup has taken place. So as and when
first cleanup, then
otherwise what will happen is you are just allowing the disease to go and infect the new systems that you will create. So the thing is that you have to take the call, clean up, cut your losses, and then reform. And when you reform in a system which is totally new, where your systems are new, but more importantly, where the HR, your human resources, are the new systems who know how to operate that new structure.
You know, before I come to public trust in institutions, I just want to end that conversation with you, Mr. Rai, because, they've been, specifically about the BBB and functioning, and since that becomes very important in the conversation about addressing some of the underlying issues with respect to the banking sector. Recently, over the last few days, different quotations have been attributed to you with respect to your proposed meeting with the finance minister. Did it happen? Did it not happen? Now you've clarified, saying that you've met him several times. One is a bit puzzled by the, by different sort of quotes being attributed to you.
No, actually, this has nothing to do with what's written in the book. It's nothing to do with what's written in the book. But what has been brought out in the media is a letter which I wrote about 9 months back. Okay, and then after that, the finance minister has said, and so have I said, and you people, which means media, has seen me converse with the finance minister any number of times on various issues. So, I mean, in a 60-page compendium, if you pick up one sentence, that doesn't constitute the entire set of recommendations. So there will need to be no confusion about it. It's a question of a process, but nobody can expect either the government, the DFS or the BBB to deliver in 2 years' time. As I said first, that something which is 50 years old, you can't overturn it and do it. If you do it in a hurry, it doesn't go. The reform is not sustainable. If you do it slowly, think over it, it becomes sustainable, and that's what we are aiming at.
When you talk about great institutions, Reserve Bank has always been one of the shining examples of that. Somewhere in the context of what he said, to open a bank account 24 hours, 72 hours, but when it comes to actually siphoning or running away with funds, it's perhaps a matter of minutes. Do you feel somewhere when looking back with your vast experience, Reserve Bank is now at that critical moment, and how it responds to this crisis will perhaps determine how people view this institution?
See, you must look into.
I called you the intrepid civil servant, Mr. Rai, so I'm hoping that you would, give me an honest answer.
No, I'll give you an honest answer.
Where does RBI stand today?
No, I'll tell you. You look at the most developed systems today, most developed systems, when I'm talking about monetary authorities or central banking systems. Okay, where at the click of a button on the mouse, millions have been transferred out of geographies. Okay, 1997, the so-called Asian tigers folded up. Our Reserve Bank, our central bank stood its ground and supported. Okay, nothing happened. When the monetary meltdown took place, the financial meltdown took place globally, US, Europe, much stronger institutions, much better regulated. Reserve Bank stood its ground, and it was robust. Indian financial systems were isolated from it. on the basis of one scam or two scams, you cannot fault a regulatory system or regulatory institution. I'll tell you why. You see, the most well-structured systems will fail if the humans operating them collude. Isn't it? Now, that's exactly what happened in US, that's exactly what happened in Europe.
Sure.
It's the man behind the machine which ultimately matters. And if you and I collude, then the best system structure that he creates is not going to function. And that's exactly what has happened in this.
Then do you empathize with Urjit Patel when he says RBI needs more powers to tackle issues like this?
No, it's not a question. No, it's not a question of empathy or thing. RBI today is sufficiently well architectured to be able to take care of any of these problems. What you require is a meeting of the minds of the financial authority and the monetary authority to be able to provide the reforms.
Architecturally, RBI is well endowed, but from a regulatory standpoint, I don't know whether it means the same thing or not, but because
from a regulatory standpoint, he has all the powers. Okay. What he said was, I should have the power to dismiss a CEO.
And that is where my earlier question, sir, about the powers of the Department of Financial Services comes
today, the appointing authority is the government.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Even when the holding company comes to be, RBI will not have the dismissing or the appointing authority. So the monetary authority in no country has the power to dismiss. They can recommend a dismissal, which they have done, and dismissals have taken place in government based on the recommendations of the RBI.